Hi, I'm Kayla, the booktube turtle, and 2 years ago today I discovered that I am asexual and aromantic. If you want to hear the full story about my experiences and like working through all of that, I made a video last year that I will link in the cards and the description. So for today's video, I thought that I would celebrate my little Ace-iversary, is what I've been calling it, by sharing some of the books that I have read that have aro and or ace characters. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Loveless by Alice Oseman. This book has an aro-ace main character, and the story centers around discovery and coming to terms with those identities. So what the book is about, it follows Georgia, who is about to start university with her best friends, who she's been friends with for a long time, and she's away from home for the first time, and she's excited and nervous kind of all at once, just those normal feelings that you have when you're starting college, and you know, about to have all these new experiences. Specifically, she really wants the experience of romance and falling in love and having a relationship because up until now she's never had a crush, never been kissed, never been in a relationship, and she really enjoys those things in fiction, and so she really wants that for herself. So throughout her journey, she starts to realize that maybe just because she loves something in fiction doesn't mean that that's what she needs and wants for herself. So she discovers new words, aromantic and asexual, and kind of has to figure out what that means for her and her life moving forward. And again, like all on top of navigating her first year of college. So my thoughts on this book, I absolutely loved it. It made me feel so valid and seen. I was also in college when I figured out that I was aro-ace, and before that I also assumed that it would just be something that would happen to me someday, like a relationship, and I was kind of in that same mindset that like, well, I like romantic plots and subplots in fiction, which is the majority of YA fiction. So I was just like, well, if I like that, then like obviously I'm gonna want that in life and I'm gonna like have that one day. And I also had to like kind of go through that process of like separating something in fiction versus my reality. But yeah, overall I related to the book so much and it's really good. The next book I want to talk about is Other People's Butterflies by Cora Ruskin. This book recently came out. It also features an aro-ace main character and also centers around discovery and figuring out your identity. So the main character of this book is Gwen. It's a similar situation of like never being kissed, never being in a relationship, or having a crush, things like that. But at the beginning of the book, she ends up in a situation where she ends up kissing her best friend's crush, and she absolutely hates it. She's just like, wow, the movies, the books, they lied to me. This is not what I wanted. So she realizes that, you know, romantic things, relationships might not be for her, which is just, you know, confusing, obviously, because she's never heard the words for that before, like most people haven't. But she becomes ostracized from her friend group because of her friend's crush kissing her, and it was a whole thing. But she forms this habit of like collecting little tidbits of gossip that she hears around school because nobody has friends. She doesn't have any friends. Nobody's really talking to her, and she just like kind of picks up on things and she writes it on her phone, like not really for any purpose, just for herself for some reason. And eventually that information gets leaked anonymously on social media, and she has to figure out who's leaking that information, because she never meant for it to get out there. And you know, on top of that, she's figuring out herself. She also becomes friends with a boy that she was close with when they were kids. They kind of grew apart. As they start to hang out again, the boy wants to be in a relationship, and Gwen doesn't understand why she doesn't feel the same way, and she just doesn't understand why it's so hard for people to understand that that's not what she wants, and she just wants friendship. And she just really has to go through that whole process of figuring everything out. So my thoughts on this book, it was heartwarming and relatable. It's pretty short. It's not even 300 pages long. So I kind of wanted more from it, like more of her experiences and after she discovers that she's aroace, because it does kind of get wrapped up really quickly, but it was still really good. The next book I'm going to talk about is A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. This is the sequel to A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. And this also has an aroace main character, though it's not explicitly stated because it's historical fiction and there wasn't words for that yet. So this book follows Felicity, who is Monty's sister from the first book, as she goes on a journey of becoming a doctor. She loves science and education and learning and studying, and with like the time period that this is in, that's not a thing that like women can do. So she's very determined and on this journey to go to school and be a doctor. And like I said, she's aroace. She has tried to be in relationships and it's not. She just realizes that it's not for her. She doesn't really care about it, and she's like, I just want to be a doctor and live my life. So Felicity and another girl set out to find someone who might be able to help her achieve her dreams. But true motives of certain people involved become revealed and things kind of get messy. That's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to spoil anything. But I definitely recommend this series. It's really good. There's a lot of humor, while also dealing with like more serious issues. The next book is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. This has a biromantic asexual character, and the story centers more around navigating a romantic relationship while being ace. So this is about Alice, who is in college, and had this like really fun summer plan for her and her girlfriend, but at the start of the story her girlfriend breaks up with her after finding out that she's asexual. So Alice decides that she is done with relationships and never wants to date again because of how like painful that was to go through for something that she has no control over, until she becomes friends with a boy who works at the library over the summer and starts to develop romantic feelings for him. And she has to kind of figure out and decide if pursuing something is worth it or if it's better to remain friends rather than ruin, you know, the whole relationship, friendship, because of her being asexual. And just like the fear of that not being accepted in that kind of relationship, because she does have like romantic attraction but not sexual attraction. So I enjoyed this book, and it was definitely cool to read about a character who does experience romantic attraction because I don't. It's like that differed from my own experiences, and that was kind of neat to see. And like along with that, like the struggles of navigating relationships because of that, because since I'm aromantic and asexual, and I just personally don't have any desire to do relationshipy things ever again, so I don't have to worry about that. But I definitely imagine it's hard for people who do have a romantic orientation but are asexual. That being said, I do think the book could have gone a bit more into the struggles of both partners of the relationship, because it did feel like things were wrapped up a little too easily. But I mean, overall, it was really good. The next book is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This has an ace spectrum supporting character. It's been a while since I read it, but I don't think it was specifically mentioned where this character falls on the ace spectrum. But there is a subplot of that character navigating their relationship with having a romantic orientation and being ace. The book overall is about Frances, who seems perfect and does really well in school and everything, but actually has a really guilty secret from her past about this girl who disappeared a couple years prior. So Frances and her new friend Aled, who is the ace one, join forces to track down this girl and find out what really happened back then. As a side point, like I said, Aled is struggling in his relationship because he is ace or on the ace spectrum and doesn't know how to explain that to his boyfriend, who thinks that Aled just like doesn't love him enough. So yeah, overall the book is really good, especially trying to like figure out, like for the main plot, figure out what's going on and where this girl is, why she disappeared, and all of that. And you know, the added bonus of a Ace side character. Next is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire. This also has an Ace Spectrum main character, which is briefly mentioned. The book doesn't really revolve around that at all. It doesn't really affect the story. It's just a thing that's known about that character. So this series is about kids who tumble through doors into other worlds, but specifically what happens to them when they come back to the real world, the normal world, our world. It revolves around a school, like boarding school type thing, a place for children who disappeared and need help integrating back into regular society, especially when a lot of them just really want to go back to those magical worlds they ended up in. The main character, Nancy, is new to this school, having recently returned from her magic world, and things start getting complicated when students and people who work at the school start ending up dead. So this book and the series, because I've read at least 3 books in the series. It's really good. They're really quick reads. They're short little like novella-sized books. And there's a lot of like mentioned representation. Like none of the books are like about certain identities, but there are a lot sprinkled throughout. And finally, the last book I'm going to talk about is Now Entering Adamsville by Francesca Zappia. This has an Ace main character, which is mentioned like once or twice, but like the previous book, the story doesn't revolve around it. It's not about that identity. It's just part of the main character. So the book is about Zora, who's being framed for arson and murder. I feel like she can also see ghosts. Is that a thing? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read this. But she has to figure out the real killer and clear her name, all of that. It's kind of like paranormal mystery because there is like some paranormal stuff going on. Honestly, this was like an okay book for me. It was kind of meh because this is the same author who wrote Eliza and Her Monsters, which is my all-time favorite book. I love that book so much, and this book just didn't do it for me. I mean, like, it was okay overall. It just wasn't what I wanted. It didn't give me those feelings that Eliza and Her Monsters gave me. But like the mention of like the main character being Ace did make me like the book a little bit more, because I was just like, oh, that's me. And so I had a little bit of excitement from that. So yeah, those are the books I've read so far with characters who are at least somewhere on the aromantic and or asexual spectrums. I have a few other books on my list that I want to check out, but generally there aren't a lot of books out there. I plan to write my own someday when I'm finished with Beyond the Gates, because I've got 3 more of those books that need to be published and 2 that haven't even been written yet. So once that's over, I really want to work on a book of my own that kind of has maybe what I'm feeling like some of these books are missing that I want from them. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are, and let me know if you have any book recommendations that include aroace characters or somewhere on that spectrum. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really happy that today's my 2-year anniversary, and I've just come so far from that first day that I discovered it, because I really did not know what to do. I was not okay at all, and I am just in such a better place now. I don't know. Life is great. I've been in this better place for a while now, and yeah, I'm really excited to just continue living my life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.